Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, with the merger, the total employees strength of the State Bank of India now is going to be increased from 2 lakh to 2,70,000. The State Bank of India will become the fifth largest employer in the country. Now the point is that merger involves human resources issues. How do you manage the transition? First of all, managing 2 lakh people in itself a challenge, but managing 2,70,000 people is going to be an even bigger challenge. I would urge the government to pay greater attention to the human resource aspect of the merger and not just the balance sheet aspect of the merger. We tend to get fixated on the balance sheet. We should really be focused on the people who are being merged. Sir, the second issue is that there will be need for bank rationalization. There may be hundreds of branches which may have to be rationalized because now these five banks are merged with the mother State Bank of India. Of course, in today's age with electronic banking, internet banking, mobile banking, brick and mortar banking does not have that greater relevance. However, sir, we are used in this country to going to our bank. Going to our bank is not just to withdraw money. Going to our bank is like doing Tirth Yatra. We go to our bank. It is inbuilt into our system. I still go to my bank even though I have all the IT tools at my command. So I think this branch rationalization aspect is something that the government has to pay far greater attention to than has been the case so far, and particularly because these five banks are now coming into the SBI fold. Sir, the third that I want to make is that these five state associate banks played a very important role in the local areas. Now, take an example from your own state. The State Bank of Hyderabad played a very important role in the growth of the women's self help group movement. In fact, the two banks that fueled the women's self-help group movement is undivided Andhra Pradesh were Andhra Bank and the State Bank of Hyderabad. The State Bank of Mysore has played a very important role in the development of the districts of Mysore. The State Bank of Travancore has historically played a very important role in the development of Travancore and parts of Travancore. The point is today everybody looks at banks, the bigger the better. The bigger the bank, the better. The bigger the balance sheet, the better. Sir, I want to add a word of caution. Bigger is not always better. Bigger is not always efficient. You need global scale, but you need local skills. Banks have to be looking globally, but they have to be operating locally. The State Bank of India has all of India and the entire world on its canvas. But the State Bank of Hyderabad or the State Bank of Patiala or the State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur had local areas as their focus. Sir, I am afraid that in the name of reforms and in the name of globalization, we are losing the local roots of our banks. Our banks must be global. They must be strong, but they must have strong local anchors. I would urge the government that while they go ahead with this merger, they also pay adequate attention to strengthen the local level operations and see how the local level operations of these big banks like State Bank of India, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, and so on and so forth can be further encouraged because it is necessary to encourage them. Merger has not always been beneficial. There are umpteen examples where mergers or acquisitions have caused different problems for the people and also for the administration. Hence, it is important for the government to take a holistic view of the entire situation before arriving at any conclusion on this aspect. Sir, from time to time we keep hearing that India requires lesser number of banks. Banks should be merged. Sometimes we hear statement that banks must be reprivatized because ultimately 50 years ago these banks were private and they were privatized. Sir, today neither of the two cabinet finance ministers are here, but the Minister of State is here. I would like the Minister of State to give an authoritative statement on behalf of the Government of India that privatization of banks, denationalization of banks is not on the government's agenda. This is number one. Number two, sir, is this loose talk that India requires 6 banks, India requires 7 banks. Sir, how do you arrive at this number? India is a vast country with 1.3 billion people. We are going to be 1.7 billion people in 30 years' time. We have 29 states, different regions, different requirements. Now, how does somebody determine that 6 banks are enough for India or 7 banks are enough